back here now on the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast to go over a little bit more into the NFL schedule and really looking at the primetime games in the first half of the year. If you look at the makeup of the primetime games within the first 12 weeks of it, you'll see that the New York Jets actually have a league high 6 primetime games to start the year. All 6 games occur in the first 11 weeks of the season, which is an NFL record. And also, their London game in Week 5 against the Minnesota Vikings will also be an exclusive broadcast. So, in totality, they have 7 exclusive broadcast games in the first 11 weeks of the NFL season. It seems like a lot. It is a lot of games early on. I can't remember a time where we've seen so many just for one team. Basically, if you think about it, throughout the first 12 weeks, 11 weeks, over half of the games you see on primetime, you're going to see Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets on them in over half of the games. So a lot of people are going to be very accustomed to seeing and knowing a lot about the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers with all this attention on them in the first 11 weeks. And also, something to keep in mind with this and how the New York Jets schedule is made up. The Jets will play the first 3 games on their schedule in the first 10 days of the NFL season. So, to break it down a little bit more, Week 1 is on a Monday on September the 9th against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. And then you have Week 2 against the Tennessee Titans on a Sunday on the 15th of September. So, just 6 days after your first game, and then in Week 3, it'll be against the New England Patriots on Thursday on September 19th, just 4 days after their Week 2 game, in totality of 3 games in 10 days. It can be a positive sign for Aaron Rodgers, who obviously is coming off of that Achilles injury from last year, basically not playing a whole year, now 40 years old. It doesn't paint a good picture for Aaron Rodgers trying to stay as healthy as possible with so many games right off the bat in 2024. But the Jets have the 4th easiest schedule in 2024. So it's almost like this front-loaded schedule is sort of meant to balance out having an easy schedule by just having so many games close together. It kind of balances it out. That's the only sort of idea that I can give, the only verification I can sort of think of for why the NFL would give so many games right off the bat like this. The Jets don't have a bye week until that following week in Week 12, so how they'll look physically by that point outside of their record will be very fascinating to see. Aaron Rodgers isn't shy about talking about anything he doesn't like in the NFL or just in general, so how he feels going into Week 12 I think will say a lot. But the Vice President of Broadcasting for the NFL, Mike North, sort of provided an explanation into why the schedule sort of fell like this for the New York Jets yesterday, talking with reporters, in which he said, yes, it's an awful lot of primetime games early in the season, but obviously I feel like the Jets kind of owe us one. When we had this conversation a year ago, we were all of us all in on the Jets. For that guy to last 4 plays was disheartening for many of us. A very candid answer there from Mike North, the Vice President of Broadcasting for the NFL. But again, I don't know. To say that the Jets owe you one, it is kind of confusing because, it's not like the Jets wanted to get Aaron Rodgers hurt. It's not like they benefited any sort of way from Aaron Rodgers getting hurt the first 5 plays or the first 5 series of the debut with the New York Jets. And now Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old, like I mentioned before, coming off of a whole year off of football to play a lot of exclusive games and potentially, if you think about it, if they have a great record through this first half of the season, you get into the second half and the NFL does a lot of flexing, changing the schedule around. So, with all of these exclusive games already in the front half of the year, if the New York Jets have a great record past Week 12, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL flexed them into more primetime games, maybe changing them onto Thursday nights, then you have one on Saturday the following week, and then maybe another one on Monday. So there could be even more exclusive night primetime games on the other half of the year. So it's not like they are totally out of the woods yet. For, again, a team that's made up of this all-in mentality, bringing guys that are meant to win right now, which is all great, but you have Tyron Smith, not really the healthiest guy. Aaron Rodgers off of a bad injury. Mike Williams, again, also coming off of a bad injury. These guys that were brought in to help the New York Jets aren't the healthiest guys, so front-loading and just overdoing this schedule on prime time, I can't imagine is a positive for these guys to have them as healthy as possible. So that's something to monitor with the NFL, and you don't usually hear such candid responses like that for NFL executives or anything like that, but I do acknowledge that it is reality for them to, get the biggest stars on all these primetime games, but it is still weird from a sense that this is probably just too much, not just from a health standpoint, but if you're an NFL fan, you don't want to see Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, the same team, on there or like every other week. I think there's a lot more talent that more teams want to see on primetime TV. That's just my thinking about it. Regardless if they're good or not, seeing the same team over and over again, maybe it's great if you're a Jets fan, but again, there does run that risk of Aaron Rodgers maybe getting hurt with so much traveling and so much just shifting of their routines and things like that. But it just seems a little bit contradicting. If you want the Jets to be relevant, if you want the Jets to really show their potential with Aaron Rodgers after a year of missing out on him, so you give him a lot more games early on, a ton of games in the first 10 days of the NFL season. You want the Jets to be relevant, but also you sort of increase their chances of getting hurt with some of their players being older and coming off of injuries. That doesn't really, match up there if you want the Jets to, be as healthy as possible, be relevant for the entire season. That doesn't make a lot of sense either for me. And also, again, you just run the risk of injuring Aaron Rodgers. Well, not injuring because they're not injuring him, obviously, but the potential of him getting hurt out there, just in football in general, anybody can get hurt, but he is on the older side of his career. Having the same things happen to him maybe as last year, even with the fourth easiest schedule, I sort of get the understanding there by making it a little tougher for them with all the travel and things like that. But I think it just does good for the NFL to have the Jets as healthy as possible, to really see what this team can be in 2024 after a year where we were sort of robbed of it. Of course, nobody planned it to be like that, but again, it just doesn't make too much sense for the NFL. And for Mike North, the vice president of broadcasting, to answer it like that, saying that the Jets owe them one, I don't know. It didn't really sit well with me, that sort of response there, and how it all plays out for the Jets with this all-in mentality that they're trying to ride here in 2024. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, one, it'll be miraculous if he makes it through this front part of his schedule. But regardless of that, hopefully it is something that the Jets can maneuver through because there is a lot of pressure on them. Just to wrap up this segment, with Robert Saleh maybe being on the hot seat, you have Nathaniel Hackett, who I also talked about earlier in this week. Offensive coordinator-wise, doesn't really sit well. The relationship between him and Robert Saleh isn't the greatest. How they sort of maneuver through this front-loaded schedule, I think, will be very telling. If they keep their jobs, if it just blows up, will they get fired throughout the season at some point in 2024? And this whole project with the New York Jets just goes up in smoke. That's sort of worst-case scenario, but, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. We'll just have to see if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, and if he can continue that momentum, that cohesiveness with the New York Jets past Week 12 and into the most important part of the NFL season. But that just about does it on today's episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. I want to thank you guys for listening and tuning into today's show. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Make sure to check out all the social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for more of the network's content. And also, if you want to see more of me and this show, check out the GSMC Sports Network channel and the GSMC Podcast Network channel on YouTube, where YouTube shorts are posted every weekday. The full live shows are recorded and posted on there as well, and individual segment videos. If you don't have time to watch an entire show, you can tune in and check out individual segments that intrigue you the most. As a reminder, these episodes go live every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune into more NFL and football conversations with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thank you guys again for joining me. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys all back here again on Monday.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to